Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. This time around we see Pippington lead his Lizardmen in battle against Ninja Hund and the Wood Elves of Argolon. Just a reminder that Ninja Hund is a Twitch streamer playing Warhammer on a near daily basis, and if you'd like to check him out, you can follow the link in the description down below. We begin, as always, with talk of composition and deployment, and as you can see, the Wood Elves are trying something somewhat scandalous in the battle today. Let's start, though, with the Lizardmen. Kroq-Gar is in charge atop Grimlock, giving him anti-large and armor-piercing capabilities, and the front line consists of 5 units of Saurus warriors with shields, trying to stay safe from the inevitable Wood Elf range support. We also have 2 units of Skink Cohort on either flank, and these guys are shielded as well, relatively safe from ranged fire, able to come in with flanking maneuvers and get some rear charges, do a little bit of morale damage. We also have, up front, you'll see 2 units of Chameleon Skinks, and these guys will look to push forward and fire away at whatever enemy units they can open shots at. Of course, Wood Elves are extremely fast compared to most of the Lizardmen units, so the poison effect will slow them down, and these guys will also act as anti-air support against the inevitable airborne lord. We have back here also 2 units of Cold One Spear Riders. These guys are anti-large and armor-piercing, shielded as well, so able to work with Kroq-Gar and Grimlock, shutting down anything large that the enemy might bring, and chasing down archers and just making sure that range support is taken care of as quickly as possible. We also have the Bastiladon with Revivification Crystal, hoping to keep units alive wherever necessary with the crystal, and the Skink Priest of Heavens, not only using a touch of magic here and there on foot, but also bringing in Cold-Blooded, just an extra cast to use and keep the army alive. On the other side of the field, the Wood Elves, of course, as you saw earlier, coming in with a bit of a non-traditional layout. We've got the Glade Lord in charge up in the air atop the Forest Dragon, and we could call it the front line, I suppose, consists of these 4 units of War Dancers with Asrai Spear. These guys have all been leveled up, just helping their melee stats, helping their leadership, and they are armor-piercing and anti-large, which is, of course, a good pick against a potentially dino-heavy build. Up front, we've got 4 units of Way Watchers. These guys are Vanguard deployed, able to get damage in nice and early. They have a great range of fire. They have fire while moving as well, so they can do a lot of work. And again, they're pretty fast as well compared to the average Lizardman unit. And over here, we've got these Wild Riders able to push out into action if these guys are forced to fall back as the Lizardmen potentially give chase. So, very interesting approach there from the Wood Elves. Let's see how it all breaks down. Naturally, right away, you'll see the Lizardmen are sticking to their side of the field. They do not wish to transfer over, forcing the Wood Elves to come this way instead. And you'll see the Glade Lord is pushing forward, an exploratory push here, while the Wild Riders as well pull out of the trees and are now pushing in from the other side, hoping to get a flanking opportunity, hoping the Lizardmen might not notice maybe, so they can get some rear charges when lines engage. You'll see the Chameleon Skinks very confidently pushing forward, hoping to get some shots into the Glade Lord. Again, that poison will slow her down if she tries to escape. And we also have the Cold One Spear Riders back here, so if she decides to dive into melee, these Cold One Spear Riders will be able to tuck out of the trees and charge in, do a little bit of damage here and there, but she does decide to pull back into safety. Chameleon Skinks continue to give chase, while over here the Wild Riders get closer and closer to this flanking opportunity, but they do get spotted, and you'll see over here we've got Kroq-Gar, Grimlock, and the Cold One Spear Riders pulling out of the trees and making sure that they can push in and intercept if and when the time comes. Meanwhile, the Glade Lord has turned around and is opening shots at various units here, trying to do a little bit of damage early on. Of course, no harm in doing so. The Chameleon Skinks continue to give chase, however, again, just hoping to get some shots in, early little bit of damage, slow her down on her retreat, and just pummel her with some shots. The Cold One Spear Riders and Kroq-Gar continue to push in, forcing the Wild Riders back a little bit, and this unit of Skink Cohort does get dispatched alongside this clump, but more on that in a little bit, as over here you'll see the Chameleon Skinks are able to spot the Way Watchers from a great distance, so they know what's on the other side of the field. They get a couple of shots in, but take a look at this wonderful response from the Way Watchers. That volley comes in, and these Chameleon Skinks absolutely fall apart. They disintegrate. Their health drops to about just above half in one volley, and their morale drops to just below half in that one volley as well. So very quickly willing to give up, but excellently pulled back there. Of course, they're able to fire while moving, while retreating, so a couple more shots into the Glade Lord and pulling back into safety. So good reaction there, just keeping safe. The Glade Lord now looking for another opportunity, looking for something to dive into, while you'll see over here we've got the Chameleon Skinks as well as the Skink Cohort moving off in this direction alongside the Glade Lord, and they're setting up for a nice little maneuver over here, so very slowly creeping it that way, while over here we've got the rest of the army pushing forward this way, hoping to surround the Wood Elves, hoping to prevent the Way Watchers from firing freely. But of course, as they're closing the gaps there, that range fire comes in and does a fair bit of damage. Again, these guys are all shielded, so well picked there, but they'll still get hurt pretty badly with those armor-piercing missiles. Now, back to the situation on the left over here, you'll see we've got the Chameleon Skinks as well as these Skink Cohorts creeping forward, trying to tempt the Wild Riders or tempt the Glade Lord into a charge over here. So very carefully creeping forward, and you'll see the Wild Riders will take a chance here. They move forward, try to get a charge into the Chameleon Skinks over here, and not a bad call at all. Take a look at this. Wonderful charge comes in, drops these guys back, does a great deal of damage, and right away the Cold One Spear Riders and Krokgar push in, and these guys retreat immediately, forcing these guys back as well. No need to give chase too far. So great work there, great micromanagement there, and these guys again took a great deal of hurt, those Chameleon Skinks, but in comes the Glade Lord, in come the Wild Riders again, and this time Krokgar and the Cold One Spear Riders both dive in. That's too juicy a target. In comes all that range support, though, doing a lot of damage to these Cold One Spear Riders. Great use of the Way Watchers and Krokgar as well. Now, using the Sacred Spawning of Shortle, helping his physical resistance, helping his vigor, but that physical resistance will help him as he engages. Unfortunately, though, in comes the Prey of Aneth Rayma, and that locks him in place before he's able to engage the Glade Lord. Wonderfully played by the Wood Elves there, but the Cold One Spear Riders not slowed down at all. In comes the Hand of God as well, doing a great deal of damage to the Glade Lord. And now the Cold One Spear Riders against the Wild Riders. Those Wild Riders do not stand a chance, but of course all of that range support is coming in as well, and that makes for a very dangerous situation for both of these units. And you'll see the Cold One Spear Riders are dropping in health very quickly. Their morale is dropping as well, and they now want to give up. But we've got the other Cold One Spear Riders off to the side over here. We've got these Chameleon Skinks over here as well. And the Glade Lord, though she has taken to the air, has eaten a lot of damage. She's at just about above half health, or exactly at half health maybe, but she's taken more damage than she should have at this point of time. Back here, you'll see, meanwhile, we do have these Saurus Warriors with shields able to close the gap on the War Dancers with the Asterai Spear. A little bit of micromanagement here would have gone a long way if one of these units was pulled back around and into the rear of these War Dancers, because they have a very high melee defense. They will stick around for a long time, so you have to increase how many hits you're getting through, and just sandwiching those guys between the lizards would have caused a lot more hurt, a lot more damage per second, and the rest of the army is creeping forward, trying to get into these Way Watchers, trying to take care of these guys nice and early, because take a look at what they've already managed to do. Those Cold One Spear Riders do not stand a chance. Krokgar very low on health, pops cold-blooded, Revivification Crystal goes down on him as well, just trying to bring that health back, but he is forced to pull back, especially with cold-blooded active. He does not want to get caught in melee as these War Dancers with the Asterai Spear give chase. But in come the Skink cohort, intercepting here while Krokgar does rout, so he's pulling back. Thankfully, replenishment still happening, though, as that Way Watcher fire comes in, doing a great deal of hurt still, but the Chameleon Skinks are responding in kind, damaging the Glade Lord, forcing her to fall back, and the Cold One Spear Riders, again, just looking for an opportunity to dive in, while the Way Watchers are now firing at the other unit of Chameleon Skinks, again, hoping to break these guys, hoping to have them fall apart. Up front here, you'll see a Wind Blast comes through, but a little bit poorly cast here, as it does more damage to the Skink cohort than it does to the War Dancers with Asterai Spear. It is at the end of a Wind Blast or a Wind Spell that most of the damage is done, and unfortunately with the angle it was placed in, which was sort of facing this way, it did more damage to the Skink cohort, and you'll see they are now willing to give up. They are broken, they are routing. Meanwhile, you'll see the Glade Lord is using Arrow of Kronos on the Cold One Spear Riders here, hoping to do a little bit of damage to that threatening anti-large unit, but not really working out there. And again, these Wild Riders have returned to the fray, willing to fight once more, and so the Cold One Spear Riders are looking to dive into these guys, but the Way Watchers have something to say about that. They all move off to the side as those Lizardmen move threateningly closer, but look at the Cold One Spear Riders. They were hit in the side, so their shields are useless. They managed to dive into the Wild Riders, do a great deal of damage, and the Glade Lord decides not to get engaged against that anti-large threat, of course, but the Way Watchers continue to fire away and do a great deal of hurt there. Look at these guys just absolutely melting away. These Cold One Spear Riders as well do not really stand much of a chance. We have these War Dancers with the Asterai Spear here. We've got all of that range support coming in, and Krokgar, with his health mostly replenished, comes in, pops the Sacred Spawning of Shortle just to help against all of that physical damage that's coming through. But of course, all of that ranged fire alongside diving into War Dancers with the Asterai Spear is not the best idea, and at the same time, another Wind Blast comes through and more friendly fire from that Skink Priest. You'd think he was hired by the Wood Elves. Some sabotage going on over here as two units of Skink cohort take a great deal of hurt, and one basically decides it does not want to stick around and fight anymore. Meanwhile, Krokgar over here popping the Swiftness of Itzel, just blowing those Way Watchers around a little bit, trying to get some damage done, while off to the right over here you'll see those War Dancers continue to stand and fight with their great melee defense. Though they are losing, they'll last a while. Krokgar, meanwhile, hit by the Prey of Anathrema once more as these War Dancers dive in and poke and prod at the dinosaur, hoping to take care of him, hoping to drop him and Lizardman leadership. The Chameleon Skinks, meanwhile, looking to fire away at various troops, firing at the Way Watchers now. Should have focused on the Glade Lord, and you'll see the order has been given to now fire at the Glade Lord. Just a few wasted shots there, but look how quickly health and morale drops. In response, we do have that breath coming in against Krokgar, and once more, he's forced to rout, but the Revivification Crystal trying to keep him alive, desperately so, just barely hanging in there with the hair on his chin, if there is any. I don't think think lizards. Either way, in comes another arrow of Kronos, doing a touch of damage to Krokkar, but again, just getting out of there, just barely getting out of there, and the Glade Lord does give chase and then decides to dive into the Chameleon Skinks there, shutting down that range support while the Way Watchers fire away at Krokkar, just trying to get him to fall and drop enemy leadership. Very well done there. The Bastiladon with Revivification Crystal, meanwhile, being chased by these War Dancers with Azrai Spear, again, hoping to take care of that Revivification, hoping to take care of that health replenishment, while the Skink Priest over here diving into some Way Watchers, maybe trying to prevent their fire from going down, but of course they're able to just dodge the Skink Priest there fast enough to get away from there, and another breath comes in, this time doing a touch of damage to the Way Watchers, but again, poorly cast. It's at the end that most of the damage is done, and because the end is past the unit, it isn't actually able to do much work. The Glade Lord, though, you'll see, is in a tough spot here, very low on health, chasing after these Chameleon Skinks, but the other unit of Chameleon Skinks is able to fire away, so the Glade Lord decides to get away and tries to take to the air, but of course slowed down by poison, so will stay within range for a very long time. The fire continues to come in and do a great deal of hurt. Morale is coming back as charges go in, of course, that gives a plus 15 to morale, so charging back in, but of course this time able to engage both of these Chameleon Skinks. This unit tries to get away, the Revivification Crystal trying to keep these guys alive, as they are extremely important as the only anti-air unit that the Lizardmen have on the field. Over here, meanwhile, you'll see the Way Watchers just firing away at this unit of Skink Cohort as they're giving chase, falling apart again. All that range support is doing a lot of work on the field today, and again, the Glade Lord just takes to the air. The Chameleon Skinks have routed. We've got the Skink Cohort routing, a few units giving chase here and there, a couple units rampaging. Krokkar deciding to get involved once again, popping the Sacred Spawning of Shotel, maybe just a little bit too early there. That physical resistance is being completely wasted on the charge up, if we could even call it a charge, and ultimately you'll see Krokkar decides that maybe today is not the best day to fight. He drops his flag, turns around, and completely surrenders. While over here, you'll see we have the War Dancers with the Azrai Spear surrounded by the Saurus Warriors with their shields. Again, a good surround here can cause a lot more damage. You'll see those War Dancers lasted a very long time. Though they were losing all the way through, they lasted a very long time. Now we've got a rampaging unit over here. We've got these guys far away from anywhere where they can be helpful. At the same time, though, we have a lot of units rallying. These Chameleon Skinks are willing to fight again. We've got these Skink Cohorts as well, willing to fight once more. And the Wood Elves now in a bit of a tight spot, as they are going to be outnumbered. The Way Watchers, though, doing a lot of work. Look at these units just drop and fall. The Bastiladon is the next target now, hoping to, again, remove that Revivification Crystal, remove that healing capability, and very quickly, the Bastiladon is going to give up on the fight. And of course, it is a large beast. It can do a lot of damage to infantry, whether they have spears or not, but it's made to rout. So very well done there, and you'll see the Glade Lord now looking for an opportunity to get involved, looking for a place where she can dive in and do some damage of her own. The Skink Priest here now as well, willing to fight again, looking for another place where he can maybe get some damage into the enemy as opposed to allies, and the Chameleon Skinks again forced to fire into the Glade Lord as she gives chase, and she is in the wrong place at the wrong time. That range fire comes in, dropping her morale, dropping her health, and you'll see very quickly she's not going to want to stick around. She's going to want to give up, and as that range fire comes in comes the Shatter, and that just breaks the entirety of the Wood Elf army, and a Pyrrhic victory for the Lizardmen. Now, the speed of Wood Elf infantry can prove a challenge for most factions, and the Lizardmen are exceptionally slow to begin with. Using terrain to his advantage, Pippington was able to close the gap on Wood Elf range support, and by seemingly using some of the cheaper units as bait, the Glade Lord and Wild Riders were pulled into engagements next to Cold One Spear Riders and Krokkar, both anti-large capable units. Krokkar's early dismissal was very unfortunate for the Lizardmen, but throwing caution to the wind, the Glade Lord found herself fired upon by Chameleon Skinks to a point that forced a rout and a surrender. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I do think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's great to highlight some amazing battles from the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.